Now, if you think private property is becoming risky and not so private anymore because of the cost of holding it, just the government cost of holding it, then you should honestly have a look at the Fabians. Now, as I've said a million times before, this is just my opinion, but it is taking place. There's no doubt about that at all. Now, the Fabians are an interesting group. They hang out at Oxford, a lot of them. And if you have a look at the Fabians, they seem to have a tag team match going with others from different sides of politics, from different sides of the world. And they do have an agenda. I'll read you something about them. I'll read you their agenda. This is quite an old piece, but it sums them up, and it is factual about them. The Fabian Society is an English organization founded in 1884. It is named after a 3rd century Roman general, Quintus Fabius Maximus, who successfully defeated Hannibal. Now remember Hannibal and remember Carthage. We will be mentioning Carthage later. The Fabians discovered the secret of the general strategy, never to confront the enemy directly in the open battlefield, but defeat him gradually through a series of small battles, running after each successful foray. Now, Fabius was a successful guerrilla fighter, using the simple strategy of patient gradualism. He knew that he couldn't defeat the mighty armies of Hannibal with open confrontation because his armies were outnumbered. He never confronted his enemy directly. This is the strategy adopted by the Fabian Society. They decided that the forces of the free enterprise system have a superior philosophy, and that their strategy must never be to confront the free enterprise system head-on. They must be content with a series of small victories, a lump sum of which will be a rather stunning victory and the ultimate triumph of socialism. Their original symbol was a tortoise, symbolizing the slow, gradual progress of that animal. But this symbol was later changed to that of a wolf in sheep's clothing, which George Bernard Shaw, a member of the Fabian Society, had suggested was more inappropriate than the tortoise as a heraldic device for the Fabian Society. The philosophy of the society was written in 1887, and each member is obliged to support it. It reads, the Fabian Society, therefore aims at the reorganization of society by the emancipation of land and industrial capital from the individual and class ownership. The society accordingly works for the extinction of private property in the land. The Fabian Society acknowledges the principal tenet of Marxism, the abolition of private property, in this case the right to own land. They then align themselves with the non-violent arm of Marxism by accepting the non-violent road to patient gradualism to total government. The entire strategy was detailed by H.G. Wells, the noted science fiction writer, also a member of the Fabian Society, who wrote, "It will be left chiefly to a little group of English people who founded the Fabian Society, who founded Fabian socialism to supply a third system of ideas to the amplifying conception of socialism, to convert revolutionary socialism to administrative socialism. Socialism will cease to be an open revolution and will become a plot." George Orwell also a member of the Fabian Society, in his novel 1984, had his character O'Brien say, "We know that no one seizes power with the intention of relinquishing it. Power is not a means, it is an end. One does not establish a dictatorship in order to safeguard a revolution. One makes a revolution in order to establish a dictatorship." Now, if we keep that in mind, they want to abolish private property. Looks like they're using the green movement to abolish all sorts of other freedoms. And we'll talk about the persecution of the people because the world is playing up. That's in Revelation as well. We'll get to that later. But if they want to abolish private property, then they are working in with what was the Agenda 21 people, which is now the Agenda 30 people, I believe. And they have accomplished quite a bit. Their procedure, ordus operandi, if you like, mode of operandi, is to blight areas, especially where small business is. So if you have a look at San Francisco and Philadelphia and places like this, and these cities that are just being totally destroyed by these half-wits under the woke banner, then you can see it's killing off the private property. How have they done this? Then we turn back to the Yalites, the Oxfordites and the Harvardites, and we have a look at how they have brainwashed these people through universities into position that they will not hire anybody other than ones of the same mindset as themselves. So once you do this, then you're running local governments. And that's another world of corruption tied up with all sorts of mobs as well when you dig deep, deep, deep. So, but then you actually wind up with homeless people camped in the street. You wind up with corporations stealing the affluence of these small businesses, if you like. So you wind up with a doom loop coming into place. Nobody wants to go there because it's horrible. Nobody wants to buy there because it's too expensive. Nobody wants to go there because it's dangerous and violent. Then you take the power off the courts. The courts can't prosecute people. The police are actually hopeless when it comes to it. Then they actually drop the standard for letting people into the police force as well. And everything tends to come apart. And the Fabians are there, you know. Let's have a look at Bob Hawke was a Fabian. He tried to bring in the ID card. He was great friends with Willy Brandt. And Willy Brandt wanted to do the same thing. So then we have a look at the likes of Kevin Rudd, Fabians. We read some of Hawke's, also out of Oxford. Hawke out of Oxford. Same characters, same cats. So we actually have a look at this, and it's come together now when we look at cities like San Francisco, Phoenix, Arizona, these areas, Philadelphia, Los Angeles homeless, Vancouver's Hastings area. When we have a look at this problem, they have blighted these areas. They are destroying these areas and these small businesses. Well, the old Bible tells us that the new system comes as a shining light, so this one must be destroyed and made very dull, as I said in 99. But that's just my opinion, as I said before. I could be hallucinating, like I have said before. You might not be seeing this, but my guess is you are now, because it's all over YouTube, it's all over the internet, except these YouTubers won't talk about the elephant in the room, because if they do, they get demonetized and cancelled. So that is the Fabians. The Fabians work in with Oxford, Yale, Harvard, and kill off the businesses. They don't want the writings, the old writings, to explain to you that this is going to happen either. They don't want that to take place. We could read a verse from Mother Shipton as well, if we like. And the king shall false promise make, and talk just for talking's sake. The nations plan a horrific war, the likes of never seen before, and taxes rise and lively down, when the nations wear a perpetual frown. So when we have a look at some of this, now she lived in Henry VIII's time, around that area I believe, and there is debate about her writings. Sometimes I think that somebody inside Oxford used her as cover to get out what was going on with some of her writings. Nevertheless, they are 300 or 400 year old. And so it's at a minimum, they are that old. So that's the Fabians. The Fabians are there, wolf in sheep's clothing, blighting areas. So if you have a look at some of these corporations getting involved with civil compliance of the people, behaviour taxes, if you like, through local government, fine you for a couple of Ks over the limit and let somebody with heinous crimes off, because they don't want to feed them and they're useless. They won't go into a penal system that pays through labour. So here we are. That is the Fabians. Look them up yourself. Remember, a lot has been removed from the internet. From 20 years ago, they have been quietly taking stuff off. It is a very clever book burn. Don't throw your Bible away. Don't throw your books away. You're gonna need them. Okay, thank you. That's the Fabians.